Welcome to today's workshop, the Founder-Led Content Kickstart Weekend. We're going to be breaking down a simple workflow that I use and that you can use and build upon, run it yourself, or train your team on the workflow for founder-led content creation and distribution. I'm going to walk through a few slides just to break down at a high level what we're going to be accomplishing here. And then I've got a demonstration that I'm going to walk through about this process. And then I cloned the spreadsheet that helps me with tracking the different links and stuff throughout this process. And this type of spreadsheet is one that you can clone, but you can also delegate and just track things if you are working with a teammate that is taking over part of this workflow or contributing in some way to the creative. For example, some people choose to work with designers for YouTube thumbnails specifically. And so sometimes there's pieces of this puzzle that make sense to outsource in some cases. I'm going to show you how to do that as well in just Canva with basic templates. And then we'll take things from there. We are here in the Founder-Led Content Kickstarter Weekend Workshop. The goal is to be able to create a piece of content once and then distribute it everywhere. We're going to be demonstrating how to do it with just your phone, but we'll share a few other tools in this workflow that you can use yourself to start creating content in a more streamlined fashion than you may be right now, and then something to also build upon. So who is this workshop for? This workshop is for founders that are building their content presence. And so whether you're leading a business or you need to get the word out about your brand, you know that you more than likely need to be making content in some way, shape, or form, and you want to do it in a way that's not going to eat away at all of your time, especially after you do the first batch of filming of the content. It's also for people that are system builders. And so what you'll see throughout this process is something that can be ran on a daily, a weekly, a monthly schedule, or cadence, depending on how much content you're looking to produce. It can also be built and expanded upon, and certain parts of this automated if you were to want to go and get more advanced, but we won't get super technical in terms of like automation build outs using make.com or Zapier or Naden. We'll use some tools that won't necessarily require a bunch of technical setup to get started. It's also for those that have expertise to share in general. If you're a thought leader and you have a lot of valuable insights from your experience in your business and what you've been learning and doing for years, and you want to share that expertise to get your message out there in the world. It's also for mobile creators, so people that want to create on the go, that don't want to be locked in necessarily to having to always go to a production studio to create or do anything like that. You don't need to have a full production setup in order to create good content these days. Descript is my tool of choice for the post-production, which takes away the need for even a lot of expensive microphoning in a lot of cases, though there is still value to having certain pieces of equipment, depending on what you're looking to accomplish. But for this workshop and this weekend, what we're going to be building is a system where you can record once, whether it's on your phone or it's on Zoom, or you can record demos using tools like Loom to capture what you are talking and speaking on. And then we're going to take that content and show you how to edit it efficiently with platforms that are integrated with different AI tools that will help with handling some of the processing of this content, which to me tends to be the time suck when it comes to creating. After you spend an hour creating a piece of content, there's usually a few hours of traditional post-production that can go into that. And this workflow should save you some time in that post-production process at the very least. And then I'm going to show you how to distribute it everywhere. And by everywhere, the platforms that you want to choose to be active on and participate and be engaging with. The platform that I start with for all of my content is a video first piece of content for YouTube. More often than not, that's the platform that kickstarts the process. And then from there, we will take that content, chop it up into different other pieces of content, depending on how long your initial piece of content is, into how many shorter form clips can come from that content, and then getting them out into LinkedIn, onto Instagram, and on other platforms. So why this approach works, at least for me, and how I've been putting this workflow into practice, are the practical benefits of it. And what I've found the most beneficial from this process is limiting some of the post-production bottlenecks. And much of this process has improved over time as the platforms and tools that we're using continue to improve over time. And I've found through a lot of trial and error and testing different tools, a handful of tools that just work for me in my workflow and have simplified the time and the effort that it's taking to get a video out there to get the message out into the world. And again, while maintaining an authentic voice, because this isn't an approach that is going to be teaching how to create faceless content with AI voices and talking on a specific subject. Now, there is a time and a place for videos that are faceless and videos that do leverage AI voice technology and reading off scripts and reading out the copy. That is not this workflow. This workflow is designed to start with a human first approach, but a human first and AI native approach, knowing that we're using these tools to augment and maintain our own human presence and personality, and doing so within that of a repeatable system and process that we're going to be building. Again, you may find that you want to tweak this process based on your own workflows. That's totally cool. The reason that I found this approach effective is that even in doing one new piece of content a week, having a place to track it and keep all of these tools in your projects organized is helpful, because sometimes I'll batch multiple contents, for example, week one of the month, but I'll end up editing and producing that content over the next few weeks and not getting lost in like, where did I store this link? Where did this chat GPT thread go that I was writing some good content for an event or something along those lines? Again, just the seconds or minutes that it takes you to go and find and dig back up these links that you're putting together can just be annoying, and it can become cumbersome, at least in my experience. And so this is just going to help alleviate some of that at the very least, and then helping you with scaling without additional time investment, though there is time that's going to be invested into this process and developing it. We're building systems here that, because we're taking a video first approach with you as the content and the power of YouTube and organic search and social media, as well as any distribution network that you may have access to, such as email, such as communities. Those can all amplify what you're doing. So if you spend 10 minutes filming a piece of content, that will then continue to pay itself back over time as you're putting this content out on the platforms. And it's one of the reasons that YouTube is the place that we start with content, because videos that we published 6 months ago are still gaining traction. Again, some videos more than other, but that's with less. I'm not putting time into every single video necessarily months after it's already been published. There are optimizations you can do, but at the same time, the same effort that it goes into doing this right and doing it well once for a video and spending even a little more time on that one piece of content can 10x or 100x the amount of views and engagement and um, impact that your message can have. And this isn't just about going viral necessarily, but it is about creating this content that can also build trust and your own thought leadership with your ideal target audience. And you don't need a massive audience to make an impact with your message. I think Shelley was a great example of posting a workshop recently, a smaller turnout in terms of attendance, but of those people who turned out, a handful of those actually turned into clients. And maybe that's something we can touch on later near the end of this workshop, with how effective just the right type of content can be, and who you're creating the content for is so much more important than just trying to hack an algorithm in this case. And so the focus of this, again, is going to be on your expertise staying the priority. We're going to have AI handling a lot of the technical heavy lifting, and then the system that you can just easily follow and do again and build upon over time will have a compounding effect into your overall productivity and effectiveness as a content creator with this workflow. So the core of the workflow is simple. We're going to start with recording content. Again, the demo I'm going to be sharing is going to be mostly using my phone. And then we're going to move that piece of content from inside of a Google Drive folder, or if it's Zoom, you can import directly into Descript, where we're going to edit that content. And then we'll be able to add different slides. We'll be able to add different type of content that we want directly inside of Descript. And I'm going to show you a few of the key areas that I spend most of the time in the post-production process on, and some of the newer ways that Descript is actually integrating their own AI editing assister and integrating it with their underlord. AI underlord is what they call it, to what they say it's like vibe coding for editing. And so this process is going to continue to evolve as you see platforms like Descript and these are platforms that are similar evolve. And again, depending on when you're watching this, the actual tools that I'm demonstrating may look a little different. They may flow a little different, but the workflow in general is still going to remain the same, and it's only going to get better with time using these tools. And from Descript, once we're done editing it, you can actually upload from Descript directly to YouTube, which is something that I didn't realize for an embarrassingly long amount when I was starting with Descript and uploading to YouTube, in that because I would need to download videos and then upload them. But I'll show you how to very quickly, once you're done, zap it right to your YouTube channel. And then from there, that can kick off another series of cascading effects that we'll jump into to put the finishing pieces on this, create short form clips from it, which you can use Descript for, but I'm going to show you how also to use Opus, which is another popular tool for short form video editing and clipping. And then from there, we're going to talk about distribution. And while there's obvious ways to upload these videos manually across platforms, there's also a lot of different social media scheduling tools out there that are available. And a few that I have used in the past and currently am experimenting with and using, depending on the project that I'm working on, are Blotato and Go High Level. And there's a lot of other examples out there of social media scheduling tools. And so you may already own or have access to a tool that will allow you to schedule content out. Again, depending on how much content you're batching at any given time, may be effective to simply schedule a number of these posts out when you do it. But also, you can just go directly to a platform and click publish. And that's what we're going to be encouraging you to do here inside of this workshop, is to actually get through the process of recording, editing, publishing, and then creating clips that you can then distribute out alongside that longer form piece of content. So again, going to be recording with our iPhone. You could also choose to record with Zoom or another video recording tool. We're going to be storing it in Google Drive, and then we're going to be editing content in Descript, distributing it onto Opus, and then breaking it down, distributing it to YouTube, and then getting it out to other platforms. And then after we walk through this demo, we're going to be doing it this weekend, right? Learning is great, but practicing and putting stuff into process and actually doing the thing is where the rubber is going to meet the road. And so that's the challenge for this workshop, is to take what you learn here, go and do it, and then we'll learn from the actual doing of it. And you'll start to train your body and your mind and the systems that you're already working with, how to develop and fine tune them to get better and more consistent with it. And it may not be comfortable the first time you do it, may not be comfortable the first 10 times you do it, or the first 50 times you do it. But as you continue to do it, I guarantee you that if with consistency and practice, you will get better at this process and you will understand what parts you absolutely still might hate to do and that you want to outsource those roles to as well. And then having that content actually out there and getting your message into the world for others to learn and connect with you on through your video content. And so again, we had the workflow overview right here. We're going to jump into the live demo. And then during this whole process, we'll be walking through the tools and the setup. And then we'll cover everything else with basic action steps to move forward from here. And we'll kick things off into the weekend. And then we'll have some open time as well to go through some questions and dig into anything deeper from that point. All right. So we're ready to rock and roll, guys. Any questions on anything that I said before we go ahead and continue on?
You mentioned 2 scheduling tools you were looking at. What was the first one?
Blotato. We have some videos on our YouTube demonstrating it as well.
Thank you.
With the founder, and then we have a few other demos about it. Also, everyone that is part of this workshop should have received the content production system spreadsheet. I'm going to share that here in the chat just so you guys all have that. And as we start to dive into the demo, every piece of content that you're going to create starts from an idea and like an outcome of what you're trying to do to create. Like, why are you creating this content in the first place? And one aspect of creating content is coming up with that idea and that hook that you're going to engage with people on throughout the content. And I typically don't use like full-on scripts when I'm creating content. Again, depending on what is actually being produced, if it's like a commercial for a Kickstarter campaign, for example, and we're creating a video script around it, then something like that for me is when I would create a script, follow it word by word, and dial in what this type of commercial video piece of content is going to be. For content that I produce when it's me talking on a subject, I tend not to write everything out in terms of a full-fledged script. I'll start with an idea. Maybe I'll have a few bullet points for what I want to touch on inside of the video or content, and then any sort of call to action that I want to mention in it. And what I've shared with with the content production system is going to be taking basically like the idea of what this video is going to be, having an outcome in mind, and then we'll go through the whole process to keep track of all the links that we're going to be producing during the production of this video. The video idea, I'm going to share an example of the blank template here so you can see what is going to be touched on throughout this process and a legend that I will explain in terms of how I keep track of stuff that I'm working on and stuff that's complete. This is basically my HQ for keeping track of everything in the content production process. And the legend is simple. It's white, means that it hasn't been started. So this is obviously a blank template. Nothing is on here just yet. But once a project begins, I highlight the row in yellow. And once it's complete, I highlight it in green. And then if there's some sort of roadblock or an issue that needs to be addressed, I simply highlight it in red. And so that's the basic color scheme that I'll walk you through and just keeping track of what's active and what's in progress and whatnot. On the key resources tab, I've included these here with the weekend roadmap specifically for this event. But the main resource that I want to access when I'm on this page at any given time is just my Google Drive Content Hub, which is simply a folder that I've set up inside of my Google Drive that is where I'm uploading all the content that I'm ultimately going to be using for a particular project. If I have different like clients that are brands that have their entire own production process, I would have a clone of this page for that specific client and then a Google Drive link specifically for that client and that brand, just to help keep things organized so that you don't have five different clients and different projects all being bundled into one and it can get confusing and hard to keep track of. And then the content production GPTs. I typically, again, with the idea, will either come up with it throughout the week or I'll take notes about an idea or it'll come up throughout an update in the world of AI. Oh, that would be a good video idea to come out with. But if I'm ever like feeling stuck, I tend to just use some version of like our MarketSauce Mentalist GPT, work with ChatGPT to ask it like to work through content that's related to a campaign going through our MarketSauce process. But the main GPT that I use in my workflow that we'll use as well once we're done producing the first piece of this content and this demo is the Video Production Marketing Maestro GPT, which is a very simple GPT designed to help with coming up with titles and thumbnails for YouTube videos. And then from that, again, similarly to ChatGPT, it knows that it's been trained that it's a video production expert. And so it can help you with answering and engaging and walking through things that you might need. If I need a description or if I need social media content, like for this, I tend to just use a new ChatGPT thread with this GPT when I'm creating content that I need after the video that I produce is there. And then this last one that I've included here is called Viral Vision, which the essence of this GPT is in the ideation phase of researching stuff related to your topic or your market or your niche. Again, just one approach that you could take here. We've also used tools like Perplexity in doing general market research. All of these stem back down to coming from, okay, what's the big idea that you're going to create this video about? And then like, what's the purpose of this video? Is there any sort of call to action that you want, even if it's just comment or share this or let me know what you think with a message to me? A lot of this is to help support if you're feeling stuck in what to even say in the first place. But let's say you do know what you want to say in the first place and you're ready to start making that piece of content. Open up this spreadsheet so you can document it. And then in practice, in real time with how I would approach this right now, looking at the clock just to make sure that I'm staying on track with the time in this workshop. I'm going to probably produce a 5-minute video or less in this process and then go through the whole production workflow. We're not going to shoot a whole hour-long webinar here for the demonstration purpose, but I know what I want. Who's going to be assigned to this project? It's going to be me. The date right now is 5/23/2025. And then the outcome of this project is what I'm going to basically be publishing on YouTube. A YouTube video showing the new Zapier MCP integration with OpenAI and what it means for AI and you. So something like this. Like that's like the general idea of what I'm going to be creating the video on. And so this is like the outcome for what that video is going to be. If I'm delegating this to somebody that I want to add any more details here, like I can add more description to this to know, hey, at the end of this, like the video is going to be up on YouTube. And to me, like writing this out, like I know where this is going to be where this is going to be ending up. But if you are saying like the the video needs to link back to X or something like that. Like any specific notes that I want on the outcome of what the end result's going to be, I'm going to add those in here. And then the assignment is just going to be filming and producing the video. So project for this is going to be Gen AI University, just the project that I'm going to be working on this on. And then any particular notes that I have right here, which I don't really have any right now, but if there are any notes that I think are necessary to include before I come and start to film this piece of content, then I would add those. I would add those in right here. And so now, let me do this. I've got the basic notes of what this project is going to be about right here. And I know that I'm going to start working on it right now. If I wrote this like yesterday and then I showed up to my computer today, I would still have kept it white. And then I would say, okay, this is what I'm going to work on today. This is the project that I'm going to knock out. And maybe if I have 5 ideas for videos that I want to create, I would note those all right here. And then I would tackle those one at a time or in a batch. But I'm ready to start filming this piece of content because I've already thought through the idea. And this was something that came onto my feed this week and I've been thinking about. So I'm going to turn this yellow just so I know that it's in progress right now. And the links are going to be all added here. And so what needs to happen next is I need to actually like film and record the piece of content. So what I'm going to do is record myself filming it the way that I'm going to do it. And I'm going to actually go through and I'm going to publish this whole thing onto YouTube throughout this workshop so you can see how the process goes. Again, start to finish getting out there. And to do that, there's just a couple things that I'm going to do in order to get set up. One is I'm going to open up my Zapier because for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to be sharing what I found out and I'm going to be showing a super simple way that people can get started with using it inside of Zapier and OpenAI Playground. And so what I've done is I've already opened these tabs on my screen because I know that I'm already going to go there and record the content. So I've already got these tabs open and you'll also see that I have a um, another ChatGPT instance that I was trying to generate an image of a toaster, but I needed to fix something before I could generate that image. But this is the other screen that I'll be sharing inside of this process. And I won't go into super detail of that until I start filming it, but you guys will watch like over the shoulder as I film it and to go through the process from that, starting with me talking about it because I've been planning on filming this anyways. I'm just going to do it while we're here live so you can see it happen in real time. So I'm going to stop my screen for right. No, I'm not going to do that. Do this. All right. Be okay. Do this. Shot the stair. All right. I don't know if you heard or not, but Zapier MCP and OpenAI just made a big announcement. So Zapier has been one of the early companies that is adopting the MCP Model Context Protocol, which is a newer way of making AI tools talk to each other in a more efficient and more effective process. And what the announcement from the founder of Zapier made earlier this week about their partnership with OpenAI and integrating with MCP, I think is really telling of the future of where this technology is going and how easy it's going to be to give your AI assistants access to different tools to take things off of your plate and to streamline and optimize your workflows. And so this update is, I think, a pretty big deal when it comes to showing where things are going to be going. And I want to show you very quickly how with Zapier you can connect it with OpenAI to start to see at the very tip of the iceberg what is going to be possible with this technology. And I think very soon you'll see easier ways inside of your own ChatGPT to be able to integrate and plug into MCP servers like we'll show you how to do with Zapier. All right, check this out. So I did that video as the introduction to the video I'm going to share now, and I'm just going to turn my camera around and show on my screen what we're going to be doing here. All right, so what we're looking at here is Zapier's MCP page, which you can get to at zapier.com/MCP. And when you get started, you'll notice that you can build your own new MCP servers. And what this means is each of these servers can have access to a number of different tools. And once you have a server like this set up, like this Moxie director I have set up down here, I can add additional tools to it, like Google Sheets, like Salesforce, like Gmail, and then all of these different tools I can integrate with OpenAI now and give it access to being able to use these tools to take actions based on my commands. And so we can see this put into practice inside of OpenAI's Playground, which you can get to at platform.openai.com/playground. And when you're inside the Playground and you head on over to prompts, you'll see a blank screen with a way that you can have a conversation with said prompt. But how to get started with this very quickly is by one, going to Tools, selecting Create, and when you click Create, you can click MCP Server. When you click MCP Server, you have the option to tap into a few different platforms right out the gate, but also adding in your own MCP server or selecting simply Zapier. So I'm going to go ahead and select Zapier. And from here, all I got to do is give it my Zapier API key. So I'm going to go back to Zapier now, and we'll see I'm going to even make a brand new server to show you exactly how easy it is to get started with this. I'll go ahead and click New MCP Server. I'm going to select the client, select OpenAI API, and I'm going to name it just Demo. Once I've got my server set up, I can see that the client is OpenAI, and then I can see I can add tools. And the cool part about this is that Zapier is already connected to 8,000 plus tools, including the stuff that you probably already use, like Gmail. And so when you go ahead and click Add Tool, and you select Gmail, you can click Add All Gmail Tools, or you can go through and add each ones individually. I'm going to select Add All Gmail Tools. I've already connected my Gmail account. It's as simple as just logging in through the authentication. I'm adding all the Gmail tools. And now, once I've got my tools added, I'm going to go up here to Connect at the top of my screen. And what this is going to do is give me access to my API key that I need. So I'm going to copy this key, move back over to OpenAI, and simply click Connect. Now, OpenAI is connecting me with all of my Gmail tools. And I'm going to say, you are my assistant that helps me with sending emails to people whenever I need to send an email to somebody. Super simple system message for the purposes of this demonstration. I'm going to show you now with this tool inside of a brand new prompt in OpenAI. I'm going to save this as email assistant, save. And now I want you to write an email to darby@theaiauthor.com with the subject line, "Did you see this new AI hackathon event?" And the body of the email will say, "I just posted a new video on YouTube. I wanted to see if you got the notification." And I'm going to select enter, turning off my voice dictation, and you can see now my assistant has already tapped into my Zapier. It knows that it wants to send an email, and it's written out the email right here. I select approve. So we say your email to Darby with the subject, "Did you see this new hackathon has been sent?" The body says this: "Hi, best, your name. But it gave me this generated sign off because I didn't give it my sign off name in this case. But let's go ahead and see if that email was sent. And there you have it. And there you have it. The email was just sent directly to my Gmail with the subject and the body that it sent. And I can see some obvious areas where I could have improved what I was sending if my instruction was more clear. But for the sake of this demonstration, you see how fast you can connect up your OpenAI, create a prompt that's an assistant that does a specific job, give it access to the tool it needs to do for the job, and you can send it from right there. And that is just a taste into what MCP is going to enable tools like OpenAI, ChatGPT, and you'll see obviously Claude and Anthropic since they came up with this protocol. And I think a lot more platforms at a much faster rate adapting this technology that at the end of the day is going to make it easier for you to build tools that can help you with streamlining and doing the things that you need to get done faster and just easier than ever before. So I hope that you find Zapier and OpenAI as helpful tools in your own AI integration journey. And I would encourage you to just not only learn this stuff, but also go and put it into practice. Make a free MCP account with Zapier and make an account with OpenAI and their playground and see what you can connect and what you can bring to life and simplify in your life with this workflow. All right, if you found that helpful and if you know somebody who could benefit from learning stuff like this, make sure that you like, subscribe, and share, and drop a comment if you found anything specifically insightful, if you found these tools together useful in your own workflow, and also any other types of videos like this that you'd like to see us film next. All right, keep calm and AI on. I'll see you on the other side. Cheers, y'all. Okay. All right. So now we're back and we spent about 8 minutes filming that piece of content. I took 3 separate video recordings, intro, core piece of the content, and then the outro, right? That middle piece of content very easily could have me just been opening up Loom on my screen and filming it like that. But I wanted to go the angle of filming it with my phone for this particular video. And so now that I've got this content, it's on my phone right now. But what I need to do with this content is get it into Google Drive because I am editing on a PC right now, and Apple AirDrop doesn't really play well with PC. So I'm going to make sure I share my screen so you guys can see where I'm at and walking through this process. I'm going to just get my login here and then I'll reshare my screen. All right. All right, so now we're back in our content production HQ. And so what I've done specifically for this demo, which I would encourage anyone that's using Google Drive for storing their process, storing their content. Again, you could probably use something like Dropbox too. I use Google Drive for all of my storage. Um, I've created a folder, Darby demo for the founder-led content weekend workshop. I've created the clone of that in here, but this is going to be the folder that I'm uploading my content into. Because again, now I need to edit this content. What do I do with it? I'm just going to go ahead and open up that folder on my phone. So I'm going to open up Google Drive and I'm just going to upload 3 files from my phone. And sometimes it takes a few minutes to upload. But now this content is getting added in to my Drive folder. And so assuming you've got one of these folders set up for yourself, once you clone and set up your own Google Drive, because this is the first one that I'm doing, I'm just going to go and add inside of my, 1 second. Oh, I did the wrong one here. Apologies. So I'm going to add this drive link. So it's super easy for me to access this if I ever want to come back and finish the content or figure out what drive folder specifically I was using this stuff in. Google Drive folder. You can see, you guys can see my screen in my drive. Okay. Those videos are already uploading. So I got one more that I'm going to need to have uploaded. And then we will move into the actual post-production of this content to get it out there on to YouTube. It's probably the 7-minute video that's being edited right now. My guess is that once this is all said and done with a little bit of editing and Descript, this video will be probably closer to 5.5 minutes. All right, there we go. So now You could go through and name each one of these individually so that you know which one is the intro and outro, which would be best practice. And so I'm just going to quickly, actually, just going to let this process for a minute. And give me a second. I want it to take too long to process, but again, the processing of this content is one of those things that does take time. And so this is actually a good point in the conversation of the workflow and the energy that it just took me to do and create that piece of content, arguably is the most important piece of this entire process. If I showed up and didn't really have an idea what I was talking about and like just blah, 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 threw it out there, who knows what could happen, right? Without going with a plan. But I had an idea, I filmed a piece of content, and now, okay, I know what is going to get done with what we're doing here. And so while I'm processing this content, again, sometimes this is something that I'll do and I'm like out on a walk, or I'm just like, okay, that's the piece of content I want. I'm going to get it set up and then I'm going to come tomorrow or on a day that I actually go and edit this type of stuff. Again, for right now, I'm just going to do it all in one swoop. And this is how I'll do videos. If I have an idea on a Friday and want to push that video out on a Friday, this is the process that is happening. And usually while stuff is processing, for those of you that know me, I play music also, drums, piano, and so it's a perfect opportunity to go for a walk, play some drums, or do something that, you know, isn't going to tie you to your chair if you don't need to be necessarily. But because this video is actually going to be pretty specific, I'm going to set up a specific folder for it while we're almost done. All right, doing it. So I'm going to say Zapier, MCP, and OpenAI email setup. So I'm just going to name this that video, and I'm actually going to move these into this folder. And the reason I'm doing that is because if I have multiple assets inside of this folder, again, if this was my HQ, and then I all of a sudden had multiple videos in here, I would get very confused very quickly about what video went where. And so if I have any specific video images that I want to add into this and keep in one centralized place, that is, I would just come back to this video. And so I'm going to come back to this folder specifically. So I'm going to copy that folder link. And now to fill out my content HQ sheet, let me see where it is right here. Feel free to rearrange these if you guys don't have this many tools in your stack. In this case, I might actually just move this a little bit over to do that right here. I'm just adding the link to my Drive folder so that anytime I come back into here and I want to see, okay, where's all the content for this assignment, I'm just going to go to this Drive link and that's that. So now this video still processing. What I find when I want to do something during this time and I am processing is I will actually start the thumbnail creation process at the same time. And while these are processing, like a real-time way that I would approach this, if I'm like, hey, I just want to knock this out, I already know that I need to create a thumbnail for this. There's no getting around that for the video. You could also not create a thumbnail for it and put the video out there. But if you did want to create a thumbnail, I would just use Canva. It's what I use for usually getting these up and running pretty quickly. I select the YouTube thumbnail template. And then here is where having, as you see, like on a video thumbnails on YouTube, you have, hey, this is the person's picture. And then maybe there's some other images that are here. If I wanted to take a new picture versus the pictures I already had uploaded, what I do is, especially if I'm wearing the same thing in the video so that it's like consistent, is I'll just take some photos with my phone and then I'll upload them and then I'll remove the background here. And so make a bunch of weird faces. You know how it goes. We'll select the one that I like the most and then we'll be off to the races. But I'm going to go ahead and upload those photos that I just took into my same folder. And if you're working with a thumbnail designer who does this stuff as a professional thumbnail designer, often they'll say, hey, send me some photos that you'd want me to use for this video. And if you're already in that zone of doing it rather than putting it out there and then your team's like, hey, what photo do you want to use? Crap, I should have just taken a few photos. Or you have a bunch of photos that are the exact same that you use for everything, which is totally cool too. So go ahead and add these in, upload files. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now we've got our videos right here. We've got our photos coming in. All right, so this one's working. I'm going to rename this. I'm going to rename this main demo. Go ahead and share my screen. You guys can see my screen right now or no? Okay, there we go. So you can see I've got the images now. And so I'll use these images, one of them anyways, for the thumbnail. I just renamed the main body of the video with what it was. So when I upload it, download and upload them into Descript, it's going to be the same there. Let me click this one. I don't know why these are not loading as much. Okay, so this one was okay, so that's the outro. So then this one would be the intro. All right, so that's the intro. So now that I've got these ready to go, I'm gonna also download them now. Load and download. So I'll give it a minute to wrap up these downloads on that front. And we're almost there. Okay, so what I want to do now is now that I've got the videos themselves downloaded, I want to get those directly into Descript because that is where really now we'll start to pick up the process on like really tightening this all up and putting it together for what's going to end up on YouTube. So now that I've got the content downloaded on my PC, I am going to sign into my Descript account. In Descript, I'm going to select Create New Project and create a video project. And the workflow I'm going to take specifically for this video is uploading them here first, and I'm going to show two ways that we may go about creating another edited version of this after the fact based on what is possible to do with Descript right now. And again, these capabilities are going to be improving as Descript continues to improve their AI underlord. So I'm going to add these videos in right now. And when I'm setting projects up in Descript, there's a few ways that like you could name things in terms of your process throughout the post-production side of things. But the first video inside of Descript that I'm going to create is going to be the master file that is going to be like all the content and it's going to be the raw content that I'm putting in. And I don't want to mess with this one too much in case I end up deleting something in a future version of this that I want to like, oh crap, I wish I would have kept that. Now I don't have that version of the tool yet. And so I'm going to let Descript process this information here while it's processing because again, sometimes this takes a few minutes to process. And so in doing this processing, I'm going to jump back into Canva and I'm going to create the thumbnail for this. And this is arguably, again, in YouTube, like the thumbnail and the title are the most important things to like have for a video so that people actually click through. And so this is besides the actual content, which obviously you want to be good content. This is where I spend the majority of my time anyways, and I actually enjoy this part of the process. There's a lot of very talented YouTube thumbnail designers that like their entire business is just crushing it on YouTube thumbnails. So I have a template that I've developed over time that we have a theme for what's the word? The YouTube channel style guide. And so we have the same colors and the same sort of background that we generally keep consistent across the board. And I've already created that inside of a Canva board. And so I'm actually going to open that project up, which is what you see here. And I'm going to create there's probably more organized ways of organizing YouTube thumbnails. So, and this is how I approach it right now. But I have the types of fontent, the colors in general that I like to keep. And then I may bring in a few other pictures in that process. So I'm going to go into my uploads. I'm going to upload files. Looks like didn't download those ones just yet. So I'm going to download 2, 3, 4, 5. And for this, I know one of our other pictures that we used with a similar type of demo is getting a pretty like good click-through rate right now on our channel. That is basically like a picture of me and then like an icon or two of the other tools we're using. And so I already have logos for ChatGPT and Zapier, but if I didn't, I'm just gonna look up OpenAI logo Let me see. And then I'm going to say Zapier logo. So I like this one because we use a dark background. So I'm going to save this image. And then for OpenAI, I'm going to save this image. Now I've got all of my main images here that I'm going to use. I'm also going to upload the images that I added in as we create this thumbnail. One, two, three. And I'm not going to make this a super complicated thumbnail, but we do need something. And quickly checking while those are uploading back into Descript, we can see my main video is edited here. And so I've got my Canva board um, set up on one side, and then I've got my Descript set up right here. And what I like to do, especially if I'm building this out over time, is actually going back into my projects in Descript and just making sure I'm grabbing the project link, which if you go to the right-hand side of all of your projects in Descript, you'll see copy project link. I like to save that link directly here in my content production spreadsheet so that I like there's no question like when I come back like that was the one I was editing this in. If I ever need to come back like weeks down the road to get something from a certain video, which like does come up from time to time, having a very easy way to just go back and find that link if you're documenting where your links are in this process can save some time down the road as well. And so we'll jump back into the Canva creation momentarily. But now once we've got our Descript file set up, you can see, I'm going to zoom in because I realized I was out a little bit more. You can see I have on the left-hand side of my screen, I've got the different scenes that I've added here. And the scenes in Descript are important because this is where you can edit specific parts of the video if you want to, or you can just organize a video if you know that there's certain parts of it. And you can see videos 1 and 2 are actually the intro and the outro. But video 3 at the bottom here is the main part of it. And so the nice thing about Descript for me in my use of it is that it operates like a Word document. So I could delete or copy and move around parts of the video just by copying this text right here and moving it. But if you have a video that's segmented into a specific scene, I can just drag that scene. Come on. Why is it not working? Normally it works, Descript. What are you doing here? So you can see the scene break right here. I want to move that scene. Why is it not working? Directly inside of something else. So for some reason, it's not wanting to move on this side. So I'll show you how to do it manually. But before editing anything, actually, I'm going to make sure it's organized first, and then we'll make the duplicate. So doing, gosh, so I copied an X on the PC, like just cut it so it's on my keyboard. This is some might call like the danger zone if you like forget that you have it copied and then it just disappears. But it also, again, like a Word doc, I just copied it and then pasted it, Descript. See, we're getting to the worst case scenario here. Kevin, this type of stuff has to happen when you're demoing stuff live. So I just went back out because for some reason it wasn't wanting to play nice there. Can't do sections in the transcript, generate radio. Okay, that was weird. So all I had to do actually was create a scene. So I'm going to back up what I did right there because again, once you figure out how scenes work in Descript, it makes everything else so much easier. So for some reason, it wasn't wanting to paste right away, like for whatever reason. And so when I click the backslash on my keyboard, notice the black on the left-hand side showed up. So now I have a new scene right here that I can edit. That scene could also be B-roll. That could be like an overlay of something else. It can be a lot of different things. Right now, I want this to be that middle scene that I created just to organize my content when I'm set up in Descript. And I actually don't need the back scene now because we just copied that to the middle. And so finally, we can see intro, middle, outro. Okay. Now that I have that, next thing I'm going to do in the top project, when you select Zap, MCP, and OpenAI Intro, and you do the drop down, you'll see the compositions. What compositions are different versions of your video that you want to break down. For the Scale with AI Summit, for example, we'd have 8 hours of content, and then I'd make, let's just say, 6 to 8 different segments of compositions for each one of the speakers inside of the live event. And so I had multiple different versions of this project, and that was a very big file. And I don't recommend always editing in large files like that because it can slow some things down. But for this, I want to again give myself a little bit of a buffer in case something goes wrong with my editing. I want to have a backup with all the content. What I'm going to do is just click, and when I duplicate, I see copy of Zapier right here. My nomenclature will be different than other people's nomenclature. I just do work in progress, WIP, and then I know that's the one that I'm working on. So if I ever go back up and say, hey, this is the main one, this is the work in progress one. And then if I want to create clips on this, I can also create, if I find a section that I manually want to highlight and create a clip from, I can do that too. But for now, I have my work in progress. And what I want to do, quickly remove. I don't know why this is 17 minutes long. I'm gonna make sure I didn't like double check something on here. Let me see. Kind of odd because it wasn't a 17-minute video. I got to figure out why this video is tripping out right now. Let me do something more here. Actually, going to do a new composition. See if this trims it up. So I'm just re-uploading those videos in order because I think something got messed up on that initial upload. I'm going to add the second file. I'm just going to add it directly into the script. So I added a scene, and then I'm going to paste that file directly where that scene is. So the main demo. Okay, so it's doing the second one. That one's at 8 minutes. And then the outro. So it's going to reprocess those. That's fine. I'm going to jump back quickly into Canva to knock this piece out. I'll remove the background. OpenAI plus Zapier. Now, let me say, do an element. I'm going to do a plus sign. All right. Probably something like that. Won't go too complicated with it. So now, what is going on here? Interesting. It's the perfect day for tech to just do weird tech stuff. Normally, see now, this is 17 minutes. So when the Descript is giving any sort of issues on like the editing front, like again, I said like a lot of the time spent on the video production process tends to be in the post-production of it. And this is just one of the things that can come up when you're dealing with technology is stuff maybe on some days is being a little more finicky than on others. I will say typically Descript when I upload the videos in um, lets me drag them around and not have those issues. And you can see something got duplicated on that first one for some reason and doubled up the time. And so I'm just re-uploading these again. And you can see the total time on these videos that I'm uploading is 9 minutes and 49 seconds. Like I've ran into issues where like sometimes I published a video and then the audio cut out halfway through the video for some reason too. And then I've had to go back through and republish it. And like Descript or not, like sometimes like stuff can happen when you're going through the editing process. And so ideally this process is going to go smooth when you're running through it, but keeping an eye out on when, hey, something like actually went off here could end up saving you more time down the road. And so obviously we need the core of the content to make this video and get it out there. And once we get the video broken down right here, the way that we need it to, we'll be in a good spot to move forward. Any questions coming up in the crowd as we're going through this? We're just going through the workflow. Again, this is a workshop and it's not a happy-go-lucky dance of all the magical things that AI may or may not be able to do. Descript certainly can help with the editing process, but again, when you're dealing with content and processing content, you can see where some of the wait time here is in this process, and sometimes you just got to get stuff set up properly for even anyone that you're going to pass this off to on your team so that they have the resources on their end, because somebody's going to be uploading this stuff into Descript in the first place. If I was passing this off to my team immediately, I would send them the link to this folder or just tell them simply, hey, my video, and like when I've worked with editors in the past, say, hey, this video is up. It's in the folder. It's assigned to you. And that's where their name would be here. So if I had an editor that was on this, they would have the assignment and then they would be the one that are handling this production process right here. See if I can figure out a way to work around this. Oh yeah, that's where that was. Okay. What just happened? Okay, let's figure this out. All right. So I just cut that piece. There we go. That one seemed to work. So we're going to go back down to this one now. So just took a little time to process it. I'll say again, the processing of content usually is the part that ends up taking the time of getting this set up. It looks like this one is all set up and ready to rock and roll. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change the name of this one, just so I know that's not the work in progress. I am going to duplicate the one that I know I'm going to be building on as my work in progress. And now we can see the video right here. And so I don't know if you guys can hear that vo voice or not. So that's fine. I'm not going to play through all of this stuff. I'd already shot it to where I know how any of the edits that I'm going to make them based on how I shot it. So I don't really have a ton of editing that I need to do in here because like I just shot it on like the first go. And so what I am going to do with Descript is very quickly remove filler words and a quick rundown on Descript and their underlord, which is once you're in here to edit it, you have their underlord, which will very shortly, I'm sure even in my account, you'll see the ability to prompt it with natural language and start to make edits on your behalf there. So it's going to get more intuitive. They do have features like that, like the vibe coding, but for editing. And for right now, you can use some of their features that do a few things. One is removing filler words, which I like to do just to remove just extra filler words, just get those out of there, cleans it up, tightens it up a little bit. And um, and then inside of Underlord again, you saw all of those ums and ahs and repeat words went away. And then I have another thing that I like to do is the studio sound because when I'm filming on my phone, sometimes the mic, I don't have a professional microphone hooked up to my phone when doing this. And there are microphones that you can get on Amazon very affordably these days that can make your sound better. Uh, I've found that Descript's Underlord Sound Studio actually does a pretty good job, especially if you don't have a ton of like really weird background noise or like musical instruments. Sometimes it makes the piano stuff sound really weird. But if you click Studio Sound, it'll do some AI editing on the sounding of the quality of your sound, and you can adjust it based on the sound intensity. Sometimes I stick between 50 and 80%, depending on the video and how well the sound was originally captured. What this does is gives it a higher quality sound at the end of it and applies it to, in this case, it's going to apply to the whole video. You can get really granular with it if you're editing and getting like very editor mode on this type of stuff and doing multiple tracks and multiple people in interviews. But right now, this is just us or me creating a content for the channel. So there's not a lot of moving parts here. But if I do want to change the intensity down, say keep it at like 80% versus 100, I'm just giving it an ear to making sure that it actually sounds good. Sometimes it can be a little, you need to fine tune it just a little bit. And that already sounds a lot cleaner than what it was initially. And just makes it a little bit more crisp and a little bit higher quality sound. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, I like to shorten the word gaps because what you find with word gaps and stuff where I'm jumping back and forth is that if there's like unnecessary seconds that I'm just like zooming around on stuff or waiting for something to load, I can shorten all of those. And the default gaps between 3 seconds or more, you can reduce that to 1 second or more. And so if you go ahead and click shorten all, that will remove some just space in your content that again, knowing what you filmed in the first place going through this process, you may know if there's a certain area that needs to be edited or not. Where I go when I want to see from a high level overview some of these gaps that I want to delete and just audit specifically is the timeline in Descript. And so you can see the Google Doc version of this editor right here front and center. You can see the scenes on the left-hand side, then you can see the video of what that's going to look like on the right. On the bottom left, show timeline. What this is going to give me the ability to highlight specific words, specific sections, and I can literally go through and scroll through and see even like areas that have word gaps like this. And so if you're looking for like really quick, clear, like no gaps between your words and condensing those, this will impact the cadence of how the video is coming on. And again, a lot of it's the style. Maybe you don't want to edit it at all. That's totally cool too. Um, just something that I find, especially when I'm looking at a video and I know maybe there's some time in between the video that I want to just cut out. But I've already done that a lot with the 3 seconds or more. And we had a few sections in that video where it was me looking back and forth on a few things. And the last thing I'm going to do while I'm going in, notice that you're building here. There was one section where I went and found the actual email that I sent that I had that in a different screen and then I moved it. I'm just going to go to that one section and edit it because that was the only section I knew I wanted to trim down. And tools in Gmail. Actually going to reduce the intensity just a little bit. Some of this is just an ear for what you're going to be doing. But again, the few things that I do touch most often when I'm just doing the quick edits are the studio sound, removing filler words, and shortening word gaps. And then you can get it can impact the cadence of the video pretty significantly depending on how much of these like little gaps that you want to trim and clear out of there. Throwing a lot of, yeah. And so I'm going to go through here. I'm just going to go to that next section. Let's do this. Zap your email. So we can see here, let's say, so I put my phone down at one point here. And so I just want to remove that. Yeah, see right there. So I'm going to delete these two sections. Okay, cool. So I knew that was the one section I wanted to delete. I repeated, and there I have it twice. And so like, I caught myself doing it. And that's where if I were to offload this to another editor, they would need to watch the whole thing. They would need to find the little areas that they would need to do and then remove those. And maybe there's some direction that I want to give them if they were to go and remove them. But somebody's time is going to be spent going and making sure that these videos are finalized before you're ready to publish them. This is a pretty low edit lift type of video. And well, there's probably a few seconds that I could shave off of here if I wanted to go through each one of these little three dot space sections um, to quicken up the cadence just a little bit. But for right now, it's at 8 minutes and 7 seconds. I'm just going to leave it at where it's at on this front and um, delete the very basic introduction here. So now, okay, so now I have the introduction. I'm giving the context to the video. The intro goes all the way into, let me show you to check this out. And so check this out. Boom, I go right into the next scene. And that's a very immediate transition, right? And so I shot it. Here, we're moving into it. Now here's the intro. We're on Zapier's page. And let me do this one more time. I want to lower the intensity just a little bit. All right, cool. So I feel good about where this video is at right now. We've got about 8 minutes of content from that we filmed for the channel. Because we're putting this on our YouTube channel and may tie this back into the Scale with AI Summit. There are other things that we could incorporate into this video if we wanted to, like adding like an outro clip to the very end of it or something like that. That's just at the very end and then we go through. I think just for the purpose of this walkthrough, I'm going to show you how easy it is to do that once if you have an outro that you've already created to add those in to these clips. So I'm going to go back to my home page and I have actually created this outro for our Scale with AI Summit series in Gamma already. And I did this months ago. And so we've been using this same outro for the whole 2025 Scale with AI Summit series. All I'm going to do is copy that outro from the outro video, move back into the file that I'm working on, WIP zap MCP right here. And so I say, cheers, y'all. And then I paste that outro at the bottom. And so now I just copied the video from another place that I had it already, and I just pasted that clip in. And it copied over the sound and everything. And then, boom, nice clean ending to the video. And now I feel good about pushing this out to YouTube and getting it out there to put some content out for what we're doing. And so from this point, what have we touched inside of Descript? We've uploaded the videos. We have organized on the left-hand side the scenes so they're going all in order. If I wanted to add additional things into any one of these videos, like custom like images or video or anything like that's an overlay, I need to do it on a scene by scene basis. And one cool thing that Descript is doing now is using their like, part of like their AI and their technology to helping you with create transition effects and making those transitions so that the videos flow a little bit more smoothly together. And you can figure out some ways that can make it like work with what you need to do, but it can add a little bit to the overall flow of the video while still not making it like a super manual thing to do. And again, very shortly we'll be able to just prompt the AI to do that type of stuff. But if I have the desire to put like an image over here in this first video. And to do so, to add images to your project or anything like that, they're like, hey, I want to show this graph or I want to show this statistic or this logo. I go to project on the right-hand side below Underlord, and you'll see files. I don't have any files added to it besides what I've already given it in terms of the videos and the outro. So when I select add files, I can upload from my computer, I can import, I can do other things like that. But I could also add an image and add this as a layer, and that's going to be a layer on the scene. And so I just added this here. So if I added OpenAI and then Zapier, these are going to be the first two images that people see on the thumbnail. And for some reason, that Zapier image wouldn't work. So I'm just going to go and do this one. The point being of like getting files in, it's actually very simple to add files to the project and then add them to different scenes. But individually by scenes and how you layer them in is where you may want to explore a little bit about how much time you want to spend on here because you could totally sink a ton of time into this. And if you enjoy doing this type of stuff and are like learning it and getting better at this process, then it's great. You don't have to take a super technical approach to it. And I don't fill a ton of my videos with a ton of transitions and slides. Um, but if you wanted to just add some basic images like this at the beginning, now so I have the images as soon as the video opens. Now, if I add another scene with a slash right here, you can see I have it now isolated, or there's two scenes. The first scene at the top, which is really this first sentence that I open up with, and then I have the next scene where I open that scene up. If I wanted to remove these images anytime after I say the word announcement, all I do now, or if I wanted to change these images and add something else to the transition, I would select the images that I wanted to remove. And now you can see, and it just removed them, but it also added a little transition to them. And so I could do some more stuff there, but I'm just going to say, and so cool, image right at the beginning. That's the first 5 seconds or so of the video, 6 seconds total. And then we move into the rest of the introduction. And again, depending on how much time you're looking to invest into the video and to what purpose it is, like you may want to spend a lot more time here for what we're doing. I feel good about where this is at right now. And if I wanted to export this video specifically right into YouTube, which I'm going to show you how to do for the next step, all I have to do is go to the top right, click export, select the Descript destination walk down, and then select YouTube. And then I click sign into YouTube, and it'll let me just integrate with my YouTube account. And then I select export. Usually it takes a few minutes to get exported up onto the YouTube platform. But now this video is being pushed out to my YouTube channel, which from there, I can take that YouTube channel link and I could run and now process it through Opus. I could also start to write out the title, the rest of the thumbnail, and the YouTube description to finish out the video, which I'll do next. And then we will demonstrate also how to take this video that we've made right now and then rerun it back through Descript's editing, their current version of their editor that will take a video and then do its own editing to that so you can see some of the ins and outs of what that video may ultimately end up be doing. So that's going to export. I'm going to keep an eye on it over in another tab because while that video is exporting, this is just some downtime from the exporting process that I can go and wrap up my thumbnail. And I can also begin to use those GPTs to come up with a title and that sort of thing. And in my process, while I'm exporting, I'm also going to go to the transcript. I'm going to export the transcript. So I'm going to download that file and we're going to jump back into our content production system. And this is the time where I open up my video production marketing maestro because it helps me with some of the brainstorming of some of the title ideas and getting those out onto YouTube. But once I open up my video production marketing maestro GPT and I click my drop down or I upload my file, so intake this transcript for context and give me the best 10 versions of titles for YouTube. And so now we see some YouTube title options and ideas. And I had the idea before, but like I'm going to look through and see, okay, which one of these kind of stand out based on what I know people are going to be getting out of the video so that it's relevant. And then we can test these titles as well. How to build this, Zapier update changed everything. Zero to AI assistant inside the game changing. Build some workflows. I'm gonna say I need three of the best and explain why. New workflow. I kind of like this one. This Zapier plus OpenAI update changes everything MCP demo. That's probably one I'm gonna go with. New workflow. So I'm gonna keep that. And I'm gonna say, okay, so if I have this, then what are 2 to 3 thumbnail copy ideas with 2 to 3 words each? Okay, so let me change this color to white. OpenAI. There we go. It's gonna be better. Kevin's like designing over here, probably judging my thumbnails. Yeah, so I think that's a good start. So I'm gonna say Zapier MCP thumbnail. And I can always go back and change these, but I just want to give people an idea like this is what's happening in the video. We'll see if people click through on it right here. So I'm going to download that video. And my video is still processing, but I see it on my YouTube section now. So I have my thumbnail. I have the title that I'm going to use for it. The last thing I use Descript for right now to push something out onto YouTube is I just like using their Underlord for this part too, is drafting a YouTube description because then it'll take the timestamps of what I give it in this video and then it'll break down the timestamps for that chapter. At least like in the past when I was doing this inside of ChatGPT with the transcript, sometimes it was still a little bit off. And so I found that with the script, it's pretty solid at coming up with a YouTube description, at least, if anything, for the things that are happening inside of the video directly. So once I have the video, because I'm uploading it directly from Descript, this is what I see. And so I haven't added in like the description or anything like that. And so what I'm going to do is copy that description. I'm going to paste it. And so I'm going to keep the chapters and then I'm going to jump lastly back into my chat GPT that I was working on the content with. I'm just going to ask it for a simple one-liner for the description. Tell it a little bit. And so I'm just taking everything that AI gives me at face value. Okay, like maybe I do that way. Zapier just announced a full NCP support with OpenAI. First step toward integrating 8,000 tools into your AI workflow. All right, let's run with it. It's not wrong, especially for those that are just getting started with AI and MCP. I think Zapier is a very good starting ground for this type of stuff. We don't need to get into the weeds with make.com or N8N or any super technical workflows. Zapier gets a lot of it set up out the gate. And hopefully this video is a good first kind of glimpse into what that's going to look like. This was the title that Descript gave me. And I think I went with a different title actually. Where do we go? All right, now we're back in YouTube. All right. We'll leave it as that is right now. We've got our description, got some chapter titles with it. And one last thing that I'm going to do as we get this thing up and running onto YouTube is uploading the thumbnail. Add that to the Scale with AI Summit series. Inside of YouTube, you have the ability to create playlists. And so for this whole Scale with AI Summit series, we've been adding those into that playlist. And also that playlist is listed as a podcast. And as the playlist grows and gets more views, again on YouTube, like your video can get recommended for people that are watching those playlists and things like that. So I'm going to save that content. But the last thing I want to do is I've already created like a templated YouTube description for our videos that shout out to our channel sponsors and things like that. And so I'm going to paste that into the bottom of my description. Zapier MCP, HTTPS, zapier.com/MCP. So I'm going to give people the links to the video because that's what I shared in the video. I'm going to say, try the OpenAI playground. Copy that. So now we're on the OpenAI playground, or we've given them this right up here in the YouTube description. We have the rest of our video, and looks like it's still saving. So let me go ahead and let it finish processing. And once that's processed, we'll be ready to rock and roll. So last thing I'm going to do is also export this to my local drive while we move into the next stage of now that we have the content, we're going to start putting it out onto cutting it up and then using that as a way that we can repurpose it onto other platforms. But I do want to do this as an example of how you can also use Descript if you have a video that is already trimmed and put together and you want to use their editing features to streamline it. There are some ways to do that also. So I'm not going to wait around 19 minutes for this video to edit, and it may have something to do with the fact that we're live on Zoom right now, that it's going to take some extra time. So if we don't get to that on this call, basically what this Descript in the final stages of what we're going to be doing on the editing front can do is when you're at the home feature of Descript, there's going to be some more options for AI video editing up here. Um, what some of our recent videos have been using is the AI video maker, but using my voice and me filming the content and then having it edited on the background. And so what this does is AI video maker. I can click generate. I can upload a video file. I can generate from a prompt, or I can paste in a script. You can go the route of using AI generated voices and creating scripts like that. For this demo, I'm going to select, let me see if that video, that's not going to work right now. So I'm going to show you how this works on the intro side because it's a super short introduction, but you'll see how Descript will edit the content. You can add illustration styles and such to the media here. And when you click continue, now in this case, in this approach with Descript, I'm taking like a video and now I'm selecting an illustration style guide, which I think we're still at the super early stages of this type of thing with Descript, where then you can upload your own B-roll and it'll have more understanding of the content that you're giving it. Again, still like super early in terms of where this stuff is heading, but I'm very optimistic about where Descript is taking this type of tool and how they're developing it with how they've been integrating AI over the course of the past few years. And so it's going to update this transcript while we're doing that. So I'm going to quickly pause because we're now at the point where we've filmed the video that we were creating our founder-led content for, and we've uploaded the video and all of the assets and created a version of that video in Descript. And then we've actually uploaded that onto YouTube with our thumbnail, with a title, with the description, with chapters inside of the video. And we've added our own back to sponsors and resources that we have in our YouTube descriptions. So now that video, once it's done and processed on YouTube, we'll be in a point where we can take it and then take that video and either upload it into a tool like Opus that will take it and chop it up into different social media clips. Um, but it is a short enough video that I could post it also directly to like even LinkedIn, or I could link people back to the video on YouTube from LinkedIn. And so approach I've been taking, and I use Canva quite a bit for content when it comes to thumbnails, but I've been using Gamma now also for repurposing content from videos and using it to create short form content for places on like LinkedIn. And so an example of this is being I have a video on YouTube. I want to create a post on LinkedIn that's relevant to the video. Maybe I wait a day before I posting this, but I want to get this content out onto LinkedIn, talk about what I talked about in the video, and then link people back to my channel on YouTube to watch that full video. And you could upload the video directly to LinkedIn if you wanted to. But in this case, I'm going to show how you could use also a tool like Gamma to taking the transcript from the video and then creating a carousel style post, which you can post directly to LinkedIn. And again, you're going to be talking about the same stuff that you're talking about in the video with your post. And so this is one way of getting the content out there and repurposing what you just created for different platforms with not a whole lot of lift when it comes to the actual slide creation, because again, we've got tools like Gamma in this next set that are going to take us that way. But that video we were editing with Descript using their AI editor. finished. And so you'll see how when you guys are going and testing this tool out, if you're using Descript in this process this weekend, what it has done like right out the gate. And so you won't hear the sound on it, but what you will see is what it's edited. And I'm pointing this out because you remember how I had to manually do the ums and ahs before when we were doing it? It's already deleted those here. And it's already made edits. And you can see on the left-hand side, it's already created a bunch of slides, a bunch of scenes for me. And so just watch visually how this flows with me not doing anything. And this is just the first minute and 17 seconds of the content that I created. So you can see just the slides and the transitions right there with how it's moving about that process. Again, it might not be perfect right out the gate, but it's already applied a lot of these elements that even manually going and doing super simple scene cuts like that can add like some value to the video and make it a little bit more engaging on one front, but you can also customize the captions and things like that. So I would just really encourage if you're going to be using Zapier's editing or Descript's editing features for their AI like this, that this is very much still experimental, but there's a lot of practical use to this for just getting the videos out and it handling a lot of what we did on the manual editing right away. And I see this becoming something that can enable people more and more as the tool continues to refine itself. And just one example of how you could use their AI tool, but also we had the example of how you can upload your videos from the Google Drive and get them out on to YouTube. And with that said, the video should be ready to post to YouTube now. So, or it should be live on YouTube now with the amount of time that we've given it. And so I'm going to make sure that is the case. And we'll show two ways to get this content out there. Yeah, so it's still processing. So again, a lot of the time that we're spending here and even going through this process right now is just waiting for content to process and get like to the next point where we can edit it and push it along. But I know where I'm going with this in the process right now. And so I don't want the fact that YouTube is taking a couple extra minutes to like me just to not do anything in this sort of downtime when I already know that I'm going to create this next version of the video or this next repurposed type of content from this video. And I'm going to do it in Gamma right now so that we can get this content out there. And I'll show you how you can also use Gamma very quickly to produce this type of content. So inside of Gamma, if you're inside of a project in your folder, I've selected our Gen AI University, and you select Create New. You're going to have the option within Gamma to paste in text to generate or import a file or a URL. Now, earlier I downloaded the transcript from this video, so I already have all the context. I'm just going to go ahead and or upload a file. I'm going to upload that directly into Gamma. And now Gamma, very popular for the presentations, right? And now then they did websites and then they did documents. And now they also do social. So I'm selecting social because I'm going to configure the prompts and it's going to allow me to create cards, but in certain social media style guides with it. And so I'm giving it the context here. I'm going to say create an engaging carousel that shares the update and the information for this video. I'm going to go to images and I actually don't want to even use AI images in this. I'm just going to say don't add images. If you wanted to give it free range to generate, which I'm going to do here, I'm going to select generate and you could update the writing or the tone or the style. Generally, like Gamma is pretty solid at getting you to like a lot further down the road from having to update all these prompts every time, but you can get more detailed here if you'd like. I'm just going to do 8 cards for social media though. And I'm going to keep the text on the cards brief versus medium or detailed. And selecting continue, this is where I would encourage everybody that's just getting started with Gamma to not get held up in making anything custom right now, but to searching through the standard Gammas that have a ton of very like well-designed presentations, different brand themes, all that sort of stuff. And you may find one that's already pre-built theme that works for your brand and your style, your company. If you go through any of these themes as a starting point, you can also customize them. And what that will give you the option to do is create different customizable themes that you can see here that I've done on my right-hand side. And you can select themes, let's say what do we want to do? I'm going to do the MarketSauce evolved theme for this one. So I'm going to click generate. This is in the style guides for the MarketSauce and AI University. And now it's going to create social style posts, which again is just generating these based on all the templates and what you can do inside of Gamma. So now we can see, I'll come back through. I'm not going to do the emoji, Zapier, and OpenAI just changed the game with MCP, major news for automation lovers. Swipe to see how this partnership revolutionize your workflow. What is it? Created by Anthropic, game changer. AI gets real tools, streamline workflows, time savings. And because it's pulling this from what I already talked through in the video, it's basically like condensing down all the steps for what I walk through to get this thing done. Request an email, draft contents, send automatically, applications, and the feature is here. Like a pretty solid set of social media slides for this. And again, you could take this as a starting point and then you could continue to build on top of it. Or you could edit it directly here inside of Gamma, do some more things that you'd want to do to add your own spin or flair to it, whatever you want to do. And you could also take this and then select share and distribute it out to your like LinkedIn directly if you wanted to. You could also export these as PNGs to upload as like an Instagram carousel if you wanted to. And so you could export directly from Gamma, also into PowerPoint, into slides as PNGs. But the interesting thing I think now that Gamma is doing, and I think you'll see more integrations with more platforms as they continue to build and develop, is you see a post directly to LinkedIn. And so if I select LinkedIn, I'm going to just take, I'm going to say, so I'm going to say link in comments, and then I'm going to actually go back out and manually put that link in the comments. Or actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to copy it. Let's see that. Hashtag Zapier, hashtag OpenAI, hashtag MCP. All right. And now I'm going to post this to LinkedIn. What I've noticed because this is still like a relatively new feature, is that sometimes some stuff will get cut off when I posted it onto LinkedIn, but you can see it posted directly to my account because it integrated with it. So I click here to post, and you can see it actually kept it all. And so now my post is directly on LinkedIn. Boom. See it added the little branding from the Gamma slide. So that's right there. And now we have this post that's on LinkedIn that now people that see it can check it out. They can also click back to watching our YouTube video. And we could take the same thing and rinse and repeat it onto Instagram. And this is where if you're doing a lot of these types of content, pieces of content in a batch, probably want to like schedule these posts out. And again, depending on if you're doing carousels or if you are just doing like individual posts or individual videos, each of those there's a lot of different ways that you can approach that process. But we went from the YouTube video to LinkedIn through Gamma to create this post. Again, just with that workflow and uploading the transcript from what we've already created. And so I know I mentioned also other platforms that can support the distribution of this. I mentioned Blotato and I mentioned Go High Level. And again, like without this being like this is not a pitch to sign you up for either one of these platforms directly, but just to see that as you start to get to scheduling tools out, like these are two tools with a number of tools that you may already even have access to that have social scheduling into them that can just help with automating this process and getting your content actually pushed out there onto different platforms. Yeah, I'm not going to repost that exact post or anything on LinkedIn through one of those platforms, but I'm just trying to show just like very quickly how you would get these posts here. Let me find it, API. So I'm
Darby,
going
are
to
you
be,
taking a
yep,
break?
I wasn't planning on it, but
That's okay. I'll just go.
I'm going to pull up real quickly the so one of the things I'm going to be using Blotato more as we build out more of our more advanced automations is using their API to automatically post through like tools like N8N and other platforms. And Blotato is also going to be coming out with what I believe they said was going to be their MCP as well. And so a lot of times I just post directly to the platforms. But if you have a platform like Blotato or one of these other social media schedulers, a lot of times you'll be able to link up a number of your different social media accounts. And then you'll be able to, in this case, ways that you can plug into their API, but you can also create posts and then post these posts directly through a platform. And that's as simple as saying, if I wanted to do what I just did on LinkedIn, for example, and if I wanted to make this post, that's just not going to work. There we go. I could have my video. I could add a video, a file here. But then if I went and clicked publish, this would actually publish and push that video out to my LinkedIn platform. Like personally, I don't think that this is like the cleanest, most intuitive interface for like scheduling and batching like tons of content. A lot of what people will use Blotato for is not necessarily just for this one feature, but they have a lot of different features that you can access when creating faceless videos as well as integrating with 11 Labs to create like images and then put those faceless videos together and then repurposing content into text-based forms for other platforms. And so I don't want to get into a Blotato tutorial for how to do that level of stuff. And there's probably plenty of free platforms out there that will help you literally just get set up with starting a, what's the word I'm looking for here? Social media scheduling. Like again, like I don't know, Hootsuite's a very popular one. Buffer, I've used a tool called FeedHive in the past. Again, it's not one of those things that I would get super hung up on in using. But if you are in a tool and we're just getting our Go High Level set up, and so if you use a platform like Go High Level, which I know is a very popular tool as well, especially among like solopreneurs and service-based business owners, once you connect all of your social media accounts inside of Blotato, inside of a Go High Level, more rather, you can create new posts directly from inside of their interface and then posting them to different platforms. And so if I wanted to do a similar thing that I did with the LinkedIn, I don't know if this will let me do, yeah, hashtag, all that stuff. I can add one image right here and I could add a longer post and then I could just schedule the post out right here inside of Go High Level. And from that point of the game, a lot of it is monitoring the videos, checking your posts and seeing what the engagement is like, and then testing back in. So usually I'll focus first on getting it out to YouTube and then start to drip the content out from that main video into other social medias. And not everything from YouTube always gets posted out to the other social medias too. But once I have the video on YouTube and we've got it already posted, again, I'm just making sure that video now is on YouTube and that I'm just tracking the contents from this video. So I'm jumping back into my video production, um, marketing maestro GPT, and just to keep track of it for in the day that I say, hey, I want to go back and edit anything with this video, that ChatGPT thread is right here. And then I'm gonna open up Opus now. Video is still processing for some reason, taking a little bit longer than ideal. And there are ways to clip videos inside of Descript too, but once a video is out on YouTube, Opus is the tool that I'm using right now that helps with creating those little clips and then editing from in there before maybe even repurposing those onto YouTube Shorts or other channels. And yeah, that video is taking a little bit longer to process than I would anticipate. It's processing. We'd finish up the distribution or the content, like chopping up the content with something like Opus. Again, we could use Descript as well for breaking some of that content down and then creating small clips and things like that. Ultimately, we could use to reshare onto different social media channels. And especially if you're creating longer form content up to an hour plus, you're going to have 5 to 10 plus clips inside of there that you could probably find, whether it's from 15-second highlights or like 30-second to 60-second clips on different segments that you could repurpose. We've also done videos where it's an interview and there's 10 pointed questions inside of that interview. And I'll just show you that example for some of the howdy videos that we've done that just recently that we've been working through in our production. There was a series of interviews, or there was an interview with Howdy at the Scale with AI Summit, and there was 10 different questions inside of that interview. So basically that video, for example, was a full hour-long video. Then inside of Descript, we created the copies of it, and then we created 10 different segments of that video that each one of these are their own clip on our channel or will be their own clip, our own clip on the channel that I literally just copied and pasted each one of the different sections from inside of Descript and created a new composition for each one and created 10 different videos from 1 hour long video. Depending on how strategically you're approaching creating the content, if you're doing interviews, like again, podcasts are a really great way to capture a lot of different content in one interview style setting. But then again, using tools like Descript and then Opus with once this video is working, you can see, we'll see how it goes. But I'm going to pause right there because that's kind of like the tail end of the workshop today. And the main goal is getting that first video out onto YouTube and then taking that transcript, you can repurpose that into a lot of different text-based content to go out from there. And yeah, I want to check in with you guys here live. Going through that. I'll keep an eye on the YouTube script to see how that processing goes. Again, don't know why it's taking a little bit longer today, but it is what it is. And we just covered a lot of ground in this kickstart for the weekend. Maybe it was like drinking from a fire hose. Questions, comments, thoughts, anything while we're here?
Darby, just to clarify, when you were making the video, the first part, it looked like you were taking the recording from the screen, like from the Zoom. And then did you take your phone and then just record the Zapier? That was a recording from your phone. Is that what you did?
Yes. Yeah. And
Okay.
that was, you've probably seen styles like that where someone's just recording themselves going through a thing on their phone. And so that was where I was going at with that style from the phone. But it could have very easily been a Zoom recording or a Loom recording that I was just showing that part just from my desktop too.
So you could have done the first part on Zoom, and then you could have done a separate Loom and just merge them together, like in the process that you continue on with. Okay.
Yeah. So when I do it on Loom, because we do a lot of our demos on Loom, especially the short, quick ones like that, once a Loom is done, you just download it and then either upload it to the Google Drive folder or directly into Descript. And then you just add that scene into where you want it to go.
Because the Loom must give probably a little better quality than the phone. Is that typical or?
I think it's part of it's like how you're recording it. So like the phone is more like first person, like POV, like this is what's happening. Like the iPhone cameras are like great cameras, but it's a different, the quality is going to be a little bit different than if you're recording directly your screen and not such a buttoned up demo if you were to just show it directly how it's working on the screen. But again, just for the demo of how this would go, but even just like taking your phone and you had something that you wanted to capture or, hey, check this out, look at what's going on my screen. What you want to make sure is that you're actually capturing what's going on or it could just get confusing. So we'll see how the response is for that video. But if I were to redo it and not use my phone, then I would probably do like one of the recordings directly on my screen with Zoom. Like if I was doing the intro and the outro, and then I would clip that Zoom video, that Loom video right into the middle of it. I've done that in the past.
And just for the intro and the outros to create one, can you do that in Gamma?
You could. And so I think it's like the process that I showed was like one variation of like how you could take it and add your own spin to it. And so that intro, rather than me talking directly right here, I could have been like, hey, in this video, I'm going to show you and then pull up a Gamma and walk them through side by side. Like here's the intro and then here's the actual demo.
Like I know you've got like a thumbnail or maybe a basic intro and outro that you use for all your videos. Did you use Gamma to build those, or was it all Canva?
I used Canva for pretty much all of it because we created the intro and the outro before they were different for the last Scale with AI Summit series, but for this one, I just made one. And so I made it as a total of a 5 or 6 second clip. I think it's like 3 or 4 seconds actually. And so I made that inside of Canva, and you could like make multimedia clips in Canva. And so we would use the same elements from a lot of our videos and then just gave it like a 5 second runtime. Did a few animations inside of Canva, and then I found like a sound on like a royalty-free sound website that was like the background noise for that little clip. And we just been rolling with that. So it took some time to put together, but then we just reuse it for all of these videos in the series. Kevin, can you see where this can apply with the clients that you're working on or working with?
Yes, it absolutely is. They do no content, and so I'm taking them from zero to this And there are a couple of different people who are going to contribute. And so it'll be easier for me to take their footage and just get it done this way. They're not going to go into the platforms, but I will. It's so easy to get a log jam of content, and production is the main restriction point, the bottleneck, as you said earlier. So this is really going to help a lot. It frees them up from the production, and it frees me up from having to spend too much time on the production. Yeah, I haven't been in Descript now for over a year and a half, and gee, it sure has changed a bit.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
and it's real exciting to see the tools that are in there and the time-saving tools. But I will say what I really appreciate a lot is your spreadsheet and the organization, because things just end up in so many different places that if you don't keep track, you know, you're in trouble if you have
Mhm.
to go back.
Yeah, and it's probably what the more of the time that I would have spent doing this 2 years ago would have been just like finding where was this if I ever needed to go back in and re-edit something or take the long route for uploading even to YouTube, right? A
Mm.
few of the time-saving things in this workflow that I've just optimized a little bit over the years, at least for myself, that have saved time. And so I hope that you guys will also see where they can save you some time in your process right now. And from the handoff, like you're saying, Kevin, if you're sourcing content from creators or from business owners or thought leaders, one part of it's like herding cats because you like need to get the content in and get making sure that everyone is aligned and doing the content or even getting in a consistent cadence, like is one half of the equation. The content, it can be overwhelming with just getting it through the whole process. And so like even with the summit and pushing through that massive amount of content over the past couple months, like it's still work. There's no way to put it, no other way to put it. And there's certainly ways that like there are things that I could have hired out on the editing side if I wanted to, but one of the things knew I wanted to challenge myself with in going through this process was getting better at working with these scripts specifically to streamline the process. And so I found that it was actually a lot more productive with the content production this time around than the last summit because I was more specific with the time that I was doing the deep editing work versus just getting the content in. Like certain days of the week just aren't good for editing for me. Certain days of the week are great for editing for me. Yeah, like in knowing when your schedule and your work cadence lines up with that is I think a big one. And saying like Wednesdays, like I'm not touching editing. Thursdays, I'm creating more content. Fridays, I'm doing more content production editing. And each week the process can get refined more and more again. And so once you go through the spreadsheet and start filling out different pieces of content, you can feel free to remove columns if they don't work for you or add new columns in if you find that you're using other tools. But again, even just like saving 30 seconds trying to figure out where the heck was that GPT that I used last time, that time will add up. So hopefully that how you build on this also will, I'm curious how you will build on this also, all of you going through this process. And Shelley, anything coming up on your end?
Yes, particularly connecting the Zapier, being able to upload immediately to YouTube. I don't usually do this kind of work. I give it to my VA, but this is certainly a system that I could do. Very valuable.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that.
The other end of it is I like the strategy part, but I could teach a client to do this, or I could teach their marketing person to do this. There's a lot of value in that.
Absolutely. Yeah, and enabling a team to be able to go through this process. And I learned the spreadsheet system, the one that I showed you, like back when I was running my Amazon agency from a guy named, I didn't work with him directly on it. I heard him through a process. It was George Bryant. He did a lot of like advertising campaigns for some big clients and knows his stuff. And one of the things on when I learned about the way that he organized his agencies, and he's managing clients, running much larger business than I was how simple it was. He's like, most people just get hung up in trying to figure out the best content production system. No, like outcome, assignment, put somebody on the task, keep all your links in place. And like they're running some very successful brands that they're managing with the same type of color coding system back then. You could build your own Airtable that follows this exact same system. And I've considered it too. You could do the same thing in Notion. But again, like you could also overcomplicate it and never get content out there. And that's not what we're trying to get at here. It's more about just like keeping the process simple, not over bloated.
One of the things that's always intriguing to me is that myself, many of my clients, we all resist videoing. Is my hair right? Am I in the right mood? Do I know what I'm saying? So a lot of us resist doing it, but forcing myself to do the Hey Jen, you never realized how easy it is to take a great video. Like those are the kind of systems and tools that are just really so helpful that you're passing along.
I'm
How many
glad to
days
hear
I
that.
sat there and said, man, I have every tool that you can imagine, and then I don't do it. Can't buy any more things for my house, but really just pick up the phone. That was great.
Yeah, pick up the phone, and you've all got like Zoom, right? So just hitting the Zoom recording and then getting that done.
Yep.
Especially like the thing with the videos is like that dead time when you're filming something. Don't worry about it because you can always cut it in, cut it out. And so if, hey, oh, I messed up on saying that, it's okay. Don't stop and re-record the video. Just
Keep going.
and be like, oh, see, I said that. Okay, three, two, one. Okay, I'm gonna redo it. And then if you know what you did and you go back and review the video at least once, you can just edit that out with Descript super quickly. I hope you guys all found that helpful and useful from today's demonstration. I just had a second video upload onto YouTube that I'm going to see if I can get the Opus thing working with. That one's on. I think at the end of the day, the consistency with just getting through and going through the process is big. So, like from today for the content kickstart weekend, like this took every bit of the 3 hours basically that we had here. We're about 2.5 hours in with it, but about 2 hours through start to finish for getting that video out, the actual video recorded and up there and out with all the stuff created with it. It might take you longer depending on how you want to put together a YouTube thumbnail or how you're going through this process. I would encourage you when you're going through this process is to not try to film like the greatest, biggest masterclass of your life, but try to pull something from what you already know, like something that maybe is exciting you right now or something that you've noticed in the world that you're like, why hasn't everybody else picked up on this? Like in the world of AI or something else for your business, right? Hey, I had this insight about X, Y, or Z, or hey, OpenAI just announced this big thing, and this is what I think it's going to mean for small businesses and down the road, and talk about it and just share what you already know and keeping that basic structure of like hook, intro, like big idea, like this is what you're talking about. Give people a reason to into what you're going to say in the video. And then if you have any sort of call to action, like mine is just share this and subscribe on YouTube, pretty common type of call to action when you're in the world of YouTube, then that's the outro. And then fill it with the stuff that you know you're going to want to demo. It could be as easy as, hey, I want to share how like I've been using Gamma to help me with creating presentations for X, Y, or Z. Let's dive in and do a 3 or 5 minute demo. And the shorter 5 to 10 minute videos in general right now, like when it comes to like product demos or those like to the point, tend to do a lot better for us anyways on our channel than like the much longer form videos. And just like statistically speaking, like most people aren't sitting around for full 65-minute, 60-minute interviews. In some cases they are for sure, but you're finding that like sweet spot anyways around even 8 to 12 minutes is a good time to shoot for. That could be a 15 minutes of you filming content and then again running it back through this process, getting it into Descript. If you nail it the first time and you only have a few edits to make, you just edit it inside of Descript like you would a doc, move some things around, clean it up, export it to YouTube, and then you can use those GPTs to just help with the content if you need help with it. But there's so many ways that AI is built into these tools nowadays for just getting the basics out there that the time should really be spent on what's the big idea and like how are you going to deliver that content and then just work through the process on the back end and then refine it over time.